I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What's going on, bookworms, and welcome back to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. This is your host, Bump, and this is the 70th edition of Bookmarks with Bump. And what is Bookmarks with Bump? Well, if you're asking now, you must be new. If you've been here a while, you know that it's whatever the hell I come up with on a week-to-week basis. But the premise of the show is predicated on this compilation, this list of the greatest threads of all time that I've collected from Twitter, now X, formerly known as Twitter. But I've put these bookmarks on a shelf and saved them for a rainy day. When do I have time to scroll through my phone and read? Never. So I carve out an hour a week and sit down in front of this camera here and talk to you people about health, mindset, fitness, goals, getting big, getting small, losing weight, losing fat, political conspiracies, football, I don't know, you name it. If there's a thread that piques my interest on Twitter, I'll go over it. And why do I do it? Well, I add my expertise, my life experience from a tool setting. That's a terrible... I can't believe I have pajamas in the shot. Well, anyway, I used my experience from my trade, my races, my fitness, my life transformation as a whole to try and correlate or correspond the things that we go over on a week-to-week basis. But right now it's football season, okay? And football season takes the brunt of all of my attention. Every year when it comes around, from September to February, I am locked in to football, to the NFL, the greatest sport on earth. And typically, you know who the champions are. Typically, you know who to crown and how to crown them and when to crown them. And right now, at the end of week 5, I don't know who is who anymore after a historic week 5, including six double-digit comebacks for the first time since 2013. Hell, even Spencer Rattler got one in there. Spencer Rattler got his first win in the NFL as a starting quarterback this weekend as Jackson Dart and the Giants turned the ball over and over again. 5 turnovers in the game to gift the Saints a win at home. The undefeated fell this week with the Eagles, who ran 55 plays on offense. 42 of them were passes. Now, this is a team that ran the ball 65% of the time in their Super Bowl winning season last year. Well, this past game, they threw the ball 76% of the time. Why? I'm not sure. They moved away from asserting their dominance, which is what I talked about the week prior. They were atop the power rankings when they came out. Shout out to Bucky Brooks and the Fox Sports people over there. They went away from their game plan. I'm not really sure why, but they moved away from asserting their dominance and finessed themselves into losing a game. The Broncos didn't win that game. The Eagles lost it. In the fourth quarter, they led 17-3 and let up 18 unanswered points to get upset at home. Now, I listen and I watch the Philadelphia Eagles fans be upset with their team on a year-to-year basis. It is like, I don't know, there's death, taxes, and the Eagles hating a good team. It's pretty much all you can count on in the American life these days. But the Eagles have had a slow start offensively this season. This year they started 4-0, and everybody was calling for Kevin Patullo's job because he wasn't throwing the ball. In this game, they throw the ball 76% of the time, and they lose the game because they lose the clock. Saquon Barkley had 6 carries in a game. There's something weird going on here in the NFL where you have Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley not getting 20 carries a game. If you have workhorses like this on your team, use them. I mean, they're getting paid for it. You can preserve a player as much as you want, but you also can't. You can't hold them back. If you hold a player back, is he going to want to perform later on in the season? Who knows? Will there be anything to perform for? For the Eagles, I'll say yes. For the Ravens, I'm not sure. The Bills welcomed in a division rival. The Bills and the Eagles were the only 2 undefeated teams heading into week 5, both sitting at 4-0. The Bills welcomed the division rival New England Patriots and watched them eat their lunch. We saw second-year starter Drake May emerge into stardom here in a Sunday Night Football primetime spot. Rolling out of the pocket and finding Stephon Diggs on the sidelines for 146 yards in his return to Buffalo. But seriously, this looks like Mahomes and Allen had a baby, and he's raising New England to new heights. I love what I'm seeing out of Drake May. I love what I'm seeing out of the Patriots. So much so, in fact, that we've added an artifact here. This is my Patriots fandom making the debut to the podcast here. I mean, I talk about them every week, but to have memorabilia on display is a big show for me. I wouldn't do this the last couple of years. And here we are at 3-2. We're second place in the AFC East. We are the 7th seed in the playoffs heading into week 6. And the excitement in New England is real. The excitement is so real, it reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Who doesn't love a Baker comeback? Okay? A Baker Mayfield shootout. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. We have a Panthers quarterback room battle going on here. 2 years ago, Baker Mayfield was on the Panthers roster. Or was it 3 years ago? 2 or 3 seasons ago. Sam Darnold was in Carolina. Baker Mayfield was there backing him up. He eventually took snaps on special teams, the scout team for special teams throughout practice weeks. All around ultimate team player, lunch pail guy, coach's son, sneaky athletic. Baker Mayfield is a dog. And Tampa is a team of dogs. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head into Seattle and win 38-35 against Darnold. Darnold and the darn Seahawks. And I cannot believe Baker Mayfield. I mean, I sit here and I'll talk about Baker Mayfield week in and week out. You've heard me talk about Baker Mayfield endlessly. Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield. Put it in the algorithm. The guy is an MVP candidate this season. Tampa Bay is 4-1. At this point, currently in the season. All 4 wins, all game-winning drives. Baker has ice in his veins and is the most electrifying man in football. And speaking of electrifying, how about those Chargers? They started out 3-0, but what has happened to the Chargers the last 2 weeks? Somebody check on Jim Harbaugh because they can't keep getting penalized from the offensive line. Okay, this is what we talked about with Jim Harbaugh. He's going to run the ball. Well, he decided not to. Okay, he's using his golden goose, Justin Herbert, but the offensive line is shooting the team in the foot time and time again. There was a drive late in that game there where they needed to get down the field. And here they are, backed up in their own territory. They start off on the 10. Penalty, half the distance to the goal line. Penalty, half the distance to the goal line. Penalty, you can't do this to your team. If you're on that offensive line, you better be running extra drills this week. I mean, there's something has to come down through the coaching tree and get right into, they need to inject it into the offensive line's veins. What discipline is. Because you can't just you can't be protecting the quarterback and hurting the team at the same time. Maybe they're just so antsy to get off the ball and be in the right spot. I really can't dissect what's going on in Los Angeles, but it's sad because you had so much hope for them the first 3 weeks of the season. And what do you have now? Yeah, it looks like the same old Chargers. Speaking of the same old team, the Cardinals. The Cardinals handed the game to the Titans last weekend, marking their second week in a row where a team turns the tide fumbling on their way into the end zone. First, it was the Colts and A.D. Mitchell. And now Amari DiMercado was about to get the Cardinals up to a 28-6 lead late in the fourth quarter when he showboats and tosses the ball right through the end of the end zone and gives the Titans the momentum. Not only did he give them the ball, he gave them the momentum, the energy, the tide shifted in that game. And the Titans then rode a 16-point run and won the game, their first win of the season, 22-21. They even scored a touchdown on an interception. So basically, the football god said, okay, the Cardinals don't want to take this game seriously. We're going to hand it to the Titans. And the Cardinals fall, and I believe that's the end of their season. They're officially dead. The Ravens are dead. The Houston Texans came into M&T Bank Arena Stadium, whatever the hell they call it there in Baltimore. They go into Baltimore. They took over the trap. They went into the Ravens trap and took over the trap. C.J. Stroud had his best showcase of the season so far. His offensive line looked decent, but probably because the Ravens' defensive line isn't altogether. They're missing 8 Pro Bowlers on that team. But listen to me right here. I don't want to hear the injury excuse. This is all falling on John Harbaugh's shoulders. This is all falling on the coaching tree's shoulders. How do you not let your next man up feel empowered enough to make plays in the game? Because that's what it looks like to me. Like, these guys are dragging their feet out there, and they're not performing up to the standard that a Baltimore Raven is supposed to. In the year 2000, the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2000, okay, Ray Lewis's first Super Bowl, Trent Dilfer's only Super Bowl, the Baltimore Ravens defense through the entire season only let up 175 points. 175 points through 19 games. Right now, through 5 games, the Ravens have let up 177 points, and that is not the Baltimore standard. The Texans dropped 41 on their head on Sunday. C.J. Stroud looked like he was back playing at Ohio State. This is not a good sign for the Ravens, and they're not going to be looking at a win this week, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but they have a tough game, a tough matchup against the Rams this week, and then they head into a bye week. We're not looking at Lamar Jackson on the field this week. We're already being told that he's trending more towards sitting out. If that's the case, and they go into the bye week, 1-5? The Ravens are dead. The Dolphins are dead. The Jets, dead. They couldn't even score a touchdown against the worst defense in the league. The worst ranked defense in the league. That's not just me saying that because it's the Cowboys. It's me saying that because of the numbers. The Jets' biggest highlight from this game is Justin Fields throwing the ball off of Dante Fowler's face mask and the ball coming back and hitting the sky cam. That's not a good sign for your organization. But then, to cap it all off, we had a birthday bash in Jacksonville. Travis Kelce, tight end of the Chiefs, celebrated his birthday on Sunday. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback, celebrated his birthday on Monday. And only one birthday boy could walk off the field with a win. Got to be the Chiefs, right? Wrong. Travis Kelce opened it up early, scoring the first touchdown of the game for the Chiefs, and then Pat Mahomes would Patrick Mahomes would run one in after that, and the Chiefs would quickly jump out to a 14-0 lead, but the Jags would fight all the way back on a 31-14 run, resulting in the underdogs winning at home. Protecting their field and shocking the world by getting their first win over the Kansas City Chiefs in 16 years. Yeah, that's right. The Jacksonville Jaguars hadn't beat the Chiefs at this point since 2009. They had a chance a couple years ago in the playoffs when Patrick Mahomes was dealing with a high ankle sprain that he played through. However, 16 years. It took them 16 years to get a win over the Chiefs, and they did. And they did it in an exciting Monday Night Football game. It's got to be fun to be a fan of a historically shitty team and watch them pull out a thriller against a formidable championship team, which I guess we had questions of in this season, but everybody saw what the Chiefs did to the Baltimore Ravens 2 weeks ago and said, oh, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. What are the Chiefs right now? I think that's something that they're going to figure out this week. They're going to get Rashee Rice or next week, 6-week suspension. After this week's game, they're going to get Rashee Rice back, and who knows, maybe they'll get back into the playoff picture. But outside of a pick six, the Chiefs' offense and offensive line brought their best effort to date, allowing 0 sacks and Mahomes enough time to throw for 318 yards. But yet again, he's their leading rusher with 60 yards in the game. Isaiah Pacheco, seemingly nowhere to be found. The run game, the run blocking is not, it's clearly not to the point where Andy Reid feels comfortable just handing the rock off to Isaiah Pacheco, and he's keeping it in the hands of the best player on the team, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it makes sense to me, but we have to establish some sort of trickery or scheme to this game in order to put defenses back on their heels rather than let them know, hey, we could just rush 4 and drop everybody back, play tight coverage, and watch this guy run around the yard a little bit. He can't beat us by himself. Can he? He was bested by the effort of Trevor Lawrence, however, whose birthday party was also his coming out party. Superstar. This was a superstar performance from Trevor Lawrence. He threw for 1 touchdown. He ran in 2 touchdowns, one being the broken play at the end of the game that turned into the game-winning touchdown. The guy, it was a play-action call. He stumbles over his feet, misses the fake handoff, gets up, falls down again, gets back up, and finds a lane as this left guard, Ezra Cleveland, levels a Kansas City Chief pass rusher, and he finds a way right into the end zone and scores on his birthday. 2 touchdowns. I mean, 2 tutties for his birthday and a win. This was a different type of Trevor Lawrence here. I mean, the fire in the eyes of Trevor Lawrence was noticeable, and it kind of jumped right through the screen where you watch this guy play for 3 different head coaches at this point in his season, and he was the prince who was promised, right? He was the king who was crowned before he sat on his throne. And he wasn't performing up to, aside from that one year where they went to the playoffs, they beat the Chargers. He threw 4 picks in that game, and they still come back and beat the Chargers. Then they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then last year, they completely fell off. They went 4 and, let's do the math here. They went 4-13 last year. Right now, they're 4-1 and currently sit atop the AFC. Just kidding. They're the 2 seed, but they're sitting atop the AFC South. Just kidding. That's the Indianapolis Colts. But the moral of the story is the marquee matchups this past week, really fit the bill. Now, they were perfect games to put for Sunday night and Monday Night Football. And they were hijacked by the younger quarterbacks with chips on their shoulder this year. Drake May coming into this season, okay, we've been beat up all last year. He got beat up all last year. He was actually the player who everybody had on their watch list because of what he was able to do with how little he had last year in New England. And now with talent being added to the offensive line, talent being added on the outside, a coach who knows what he's doing, the New England Patriots are pleased with what they're getting out of Drake May, and so am I as a New England Patriots fan. Trevor Lawrence's 2 touchdowns on the ground on Monday night, as well as Drake May's 273 yards, slinging the ball at a 73% completion rate against a pass rush that sacked him 4 times and had him scrambling all over the yard. Both of these quarterbacks had incredible showcases to prove to the national viewer that these franchises are at a turning point. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots are no longer laughing stocks in the NFL, okay? We are here to play. This is serious business. And we got tough matchups ahead. So let's get into that a little bit here. So I want to pull up, and we'll probably do this on a week-to-week basis for the rest of the season because these will not quit. We will not give up on what we got here. We have a playoff picture. Okay, last week we went over it, but now we have the matchups. The teams getting the byes on the AFC side will be the Indianapolis Colts, and on the NFC side is the Philadelphia Eagles. Then the matchups will be like a flashback here. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars being paired with the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a game that we've seen before, and as I mentioned before, Trevor Lawrence could throw for 4 interceptions in this game. The Chargers, are they still going to charge? Are they still going to do the things that they do that make them lose games? This would be a great chance to double back and see what we're working with here. Okay, this isn't the Brandon Staley and Doug Peterson led teams anymore. This is Jim Harbaugh against Liam Cohen, a first-year head coach who clearly has the ire of the locker room behind him. I mean, the fire in the eyes of Trevor Lawrence is something that perks me up a little bit here. Coming out of the draft, he said that it's just football, and I don't need to win to feel fulfillment in my life. Well, now I think that winning is doing a little bit of something for him. And then Justin Herbert, just the complete trust that Jim Harbaugh has in him. It'll be interesting to see how they move forward, if they continue to be the 4 seed, if they do, in fact, win out the AFC West, or if the Chiefs are going to make a run here. This is the point in the season where if you have to make a run, you got to start right now if you're trying to make a run here. And the Denver Broncos, they certainly will. After a win over the Eagles, they jump into the 6th spot, and they would be paired up against the AFC North winning Pittsburgh Steelers, which I don't see a way that changes. Unless if the Steelers completely collapse, I don't see one team in that division who's going to jump out ahead. The Browns had a game in the bag Sunday morning in London, and they decided to play conservative. And I don't like this trend out of teams where they play conservatively, go 3 and out, punt the ball, and put it on their defense's shoulders to win a game. If you have the ball, if you put the quarterback in the starting position, trust him. Just stop running the ball late in the game. Please, for the love of God, stop. Just put the ball in the air. And if you throw an incompletion, fine, whatever. At least you tried. I'm watching teams lose games by not trying. This happened with the Cardinals too. Like, they didn't just die because the interception turned into a touchdown for the Titans, or because the touchdown turned into a touchback and the Titans got the ball back and you wiped points off the board. That's not just it. It's what happens after that as well. But anyway, we'll move on, and we'll see the New England Patriots be paired up against the AFC East winning Buffalo Bills, a game that we watched this week. Will it happen the same exact way it just happened? I don't know. But if I get to see another Drake May game-winning drive, I am one happy Patriots fan. And we'll head over to the NFC side, where the Eagles are still atop the charts. They would get a bye week if the season were to end today. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions would have a chance to play that Week 1 game over, and we'd find out if it truly was a fluke or not. The Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have another chance to have a thrilling showcase, just like we had this past Sunday with Baker Mayfield concluding the game with another game-winning drive. I mean, if you're not up by 9 points with 1 minute left on the clock, there is no game that's safe when you're faced off against Baker Mayfield. And then the Minnesota Vikings against the San Francisco 49ers. That would be the last playoff matchup that there is if the season were to end today. I really like, and now we're a little bit more removed here from what we just saw out of the 49ers. The 49ers played last Thursday, and Mac Jones looked like a Don. 318 yards for the boy, who is now playing on his third team, but coincidentally, he's playing for the team that wanted him originally. He was slated to go third in the 2018 NFL draft until Kyle Shanahan had second thoughts and decided, let's draft this upstart prospect, Trey Lance. And who am I? I'm sitting in my bedroom talking about him, but where's Trey Lance now? Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan are off to a tremendous start together, and Mac Jones is undefeated as the 49ers starting quarterback. Now, Brock Purdy will come back into the fray eventually. He's dealing with some turf toe, which hurts. I've had it. But Mac Jones, I mean, he's just playing banged up, dinged up, throwing up on the field, just like Willie Beeman. Any given Sunday, put Mac Jones out there, and I trust him. The Vikings, winning with Wentz. The first Wentz win, I knew that would happen. The second Wentz game, I didn't know if they would be able to pull it off or not. This game against the Browns, it looked as if the Browns were going to take it from them until Wentz went right down the field and finds Jordan Addison in the end zone and wins the game. Game-winning drive out of Carson Wentz. The cardiac Carson Wentz is back in the game, and he's playing big-time football. And they make their trip back from London town this week, and they have a bye week to celebrate. So who's playing? Who's playing this week? We have some games, obviously, across the board. We won't talk about Thursday Night Football. The Eagles will get a get-back win against the Giants in MetLife. After I just saw the way the Giants handed the game to the Saints, I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know if Brian Daboll will have a job there, but I do know Jackson Dart has the trust of the team. The team loves Jackson. That's really all they got. The Eagles need to put it together here. I think if they run the ball, maybe, who knows? Let's say they run the ball 20% more, and they do a 56% passing, 44, just play the game evenly, and put your team in a position to at least get close to a first down. I mean, you don't have to throw the ball. Like Patullo, get off of social media. That's what we really need from you, is to just get off of social media. Don't listen to the Johns in Philadelphia. I mean, you were there last year, weren't you? So don't you remember how Kellen Moore was calling those games? Like, why can't you just follow his lead? Anyway, this week, Denver and New York will be what we take over to London. You're welcome, England. This is the best we have to offer. Denver is going to blow the Jets out of the water. The first team since the 80s to not get one turnover through 5 weeks of play. That's what the New York Jets have become. And that's surprising to me, with Aaron Glenn leading the charge. Another thing that's surprising to me is that Denver's only favored by 6.5 points. I think they win by more than a touchdown. I think this is a game where, like, Sean Payton knows last week, okay, we barely beat the Eagles. The Eagles gave us a win. Okay, we didn't win that game. The Eagles lost it. So let's go over across the pond, give England the best we have to offer, and win a game. And I think they have a great chance to do that against the Jets team, who didn't score against the Cowboys last week, as I mentioned beforehand, and their offense seemingly sucks. So Denver gets a win over there, okay? I want to talk about the Green Bay and Cincinnati game. No, I don't. I want to talk about the Las Vegas. I don't want to talk about that game either. We'll go to Tampa Bay and San Francisco, because this matchup is going to be electrifying. Right now, Tampa Bay is favored by 2.5 points, except, are they going up against Mac Jones, or are they going up against Brock Purdy? Can we get some injury news over here? Thanks to receiver Christian McCaffrey. See Christian McCaffrey taking on the whole brunt of the game. We have no update right now. There's a lot of talk as far as who is going to be the guy when Brock Purdy's clear. Brock Purdy is currently questionable as of yesterday's practice. Malik Mustafa's out, safety for the 49ers. They opened up his 21-day practice window to return to the reserve PUP list, so he should be back within the next few weeks. Brock Purdy still questionable, and I think they'll play it ear to ear. However, they're going into a tough game this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But what do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers bring in this game? Well, they bring a home presence, okay? That's a hard stadium to win in. Raymond James Stadium is a hot place, especially at 4:25 in the middle of the day, even here in October. Considerably warmer than the climate over there in Santa Ana, California, where the San Francisco 49ers hail from. 49ers, I doubted what they would be able to do last week. Everybody doubted what they would be able to do last week against the Rams in a divisional matchup where these two teams play each other a ton throughout the season. But here in Tampa Bay, it's got to be Baker. I think for Tampa Bay, this is a great spot to hop out and have a provable win, which they haven't done yet this season, which I think is something they need to do if they want to prove to people who don't believe in Baker that they're contenders. Me, you know me. I love Baker Mayfield. I believe in him wholeheartedly. However, does he believe in himself? That's a dumb question. Of course he does. Does the rest of the NFL believe in him? I don't know. Do they believe in the Buccaneers as a whole? I'm not too sure. But I know that whatever they're pulling off, they're doing hurt. Okay? So Bucky Irving missed the last game. Mike Evans is out for a few more weeks with a hamstring injury. They just got Chris Godwin back. But last week, it was all Emeka Ibuka. And any time that Baker could find him running in open field, he put the ball in a bucket for him. I think that's a great connection. Another great connection is Sterling Shepard, Baker's old wide receiver from Oklahoma. They were teammates. They have great chemistry. And Baker seems to find anybody whenever he has to. I haven't seen anybody throw the ball on a rollout the way that Baker does in a while. Like he's Rodgers-esque. He's one of the best to ever do it. Baker Mayfield. I'm glad he's getting his flowers now in the media and whatnot, but still there's doubts here. I think if there's any chance for you to prove what your team is, it's going to be right here, right now, against the tough 49ers team. And then we'll move on to the Sunday night football game. So we have Detroit and Kansas City. This is a rematch of last year's season opener, I believe it was. Detroit went into Kansas City on banner night and took their lunch. This week, I think Detroit is just humming. Kansas City is a 2.5-point favorite, which home field advantage will give you 3.5 to 4.5 points. So with this point spread, it actually tells me that the Lions are probably favored in this game. For me, they're favored. Like, I need to see something out of the Chiefs. I have a lot more belief in the Baker Mayfield-led Bucs than I do in the Chiefs right now. It might be a thing where we have to wait until we're fully stocked and fully loaded again. It might be a thing where they're going to have to trade for somebody monumental again. This Kansas City Chiefs conundrum we're in is it's baffling to me. And they were able to be picked apart last week by Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Honestly, I mean, Detroit, with Jared Goff, he has an endless supply of weapons around him. Gibbs, Montgomery, running the ball hard through the middle of the field, which seems to be a problem for the Chiefs. They're not able to stop the run that well. And listen, you might be able to cover Amon-Ra St. Brown, but are you going to be able to take care of Isaac Tesla, who's emerging as a star right now, even though he doesn't have many catches? Every catch he makes is spectacular. Then you have Jameson Williams, who just is a 4-2 guy who you could put out in the middle of the field and have him run a seam. And is he going to beat a safety? You bet your ass he is. Detroit Lions, the Lions are going to put a whooping on Kansas City this week. That's my prediction there. And then once again, Raj, you didn't listen to me, and I'm a little disappointed and let down by what you've done here. But we have two matchups on Monday Night Football. Buffalo is going to beat Atlanta. Buffalo needs a get-back win here. So we'll put that on the docket. They're favored by 4.5 on the road, which means that they're probably more likely to be favored by 8.5. And then you have Washington, who's favored at home over the Chicago Bears. So we have Buffalo and Atlanta, Chicago and Washington. The two teams on byes are two teams that just got wins. And I think I'm going with Buffalo. I'm going with Buffalo on Monday night, and I'm going with Washington on Monday night. The Chicago Bears, they have a lot of momentum behind them, but the Washington Commanders looked great last week with Jaden Daniels back in the fold. They get a tough, hard-fought win last week. And if you remember, the last time these two teams played, there was one hell of a Hail Mary that ended that game. So even if it's close, it's not. Especially with Jaden Daniels. I just put Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams as far as a maturity standpoint, as far as a leadership standpoint. And just moxie, overall moxie, just being that guy. Jaden Daniels is that guy. He's that guy I can trust. He might be the only man that I trust in Washington, D.C. What a great segue that is. But before we get into it, we have Denver, okay? These are our teams for the week. And right now we're 10-7 on the NFL season. We started hot. We're teetering off, much like many of the teams who are playing and many of the teams that we're rooting for. And this week, we're rooting for Denver. We're rooting for Tampa. We're rooting for Detroit. We're rooting for Buffalo. And we're rooting for Washington. 5 games this week. We're picking 5 games, and this could make us or break us. That is my 5-team moneyline parlay. 5-team moneyline parlay. I believe in it, so I'm placing it. You see that? It's placed. If I believe in it enough to invest in it, just believe in me and my knowledge of ball. You can trust me. Like I said, I trust me. I trust Jaden Daniels more than anybody else in Washington, D.C. And part of that is because of stuff like this. March 6, 2023. Obama-Clinton lawyer Dana Hyde dies with blunt force injuries. Cause of death? Turbulence while flying. A total of 4 people have died on commercial planes from turbulence since 1980. For private planes, that number is 38 people since 2009. But nearly all those incidents were actual crashes, not just turbulence. This week, the U.S. government shut down. Coincidentally, right around the same time, we gathered 218 votes to release the Epstein files. The government shut down. Is that because there's dissension among the ranks? Of course there is. There always is. There's always bickering back and forth across the aisle. However, this shutdown is very suspicious to me. Everything that seemingly happens over the last 20 years is extremely suspicious to me. Turbulence while flying being the cause of death for this one lawyer? I don't know if I can call it that. I don't know what I can really call it. These threads here that I guess I've picked for this week they came out a few years ago, especially this one right here. Y'all remember Obama's chef? Well, as the details come out, it's becoming increasingly apparent that things do not add up. Tafari Campbell worked in the White House during the Obama administration, and then they decided to bring him home with them as a private chef when Trump took over in 2016. Over the last 7 years, he has traveled all over the world with them and knows many of their deepest, darkest secrets. Rumors are spreading that he was murdered because they discovered a book he was writing about his experience that included a lot of reputation-damaging information. This could have been seen as a betrayal from someone who they trusted. Who goes paddleboarding alone in the middle of a pond with no life jacket if you don't know how to swim? Well, let me just butt in here. Anytime I've ever been paddleboarding, I've done it without a life jacket, but that's because I know how to swim. If this guy didn't know how to swim, what's he doing on a paddleboard? To make things even stranger, a witness describes him sinking quickly below... Hold on. A witness describes him sinking quickly below the surface and vanishing. Why couldn't he grab onto his paddleboard? Why did it take them so long to find his body in only 8 feet of water when a witness supposedly saw exactly where it happened? What are the chances the Obamas happened to be out of town on the exact day this occurred? And why is the media playing cover-up? Why would he leave his wife and kids behind to go paddleboarding? Why were many law enforcement officials so quick to write this off before an autopsy even took place? I will not stop investigating until the truth comes out. Now, I've never followed this up to see if these investigations on this have turned anything up, but it seems weird that all of the acquaintances of the Obamas, Clintons, and Bidens have these freaky accidents that take place. Talk about the Bilderberg Group and the bodies and the construction sites. Talk about all these things. And it's all shady. And right now, what's happening is extremely shady, and it's been shady ever since I talked about this months ago with the Are We Still Talking About Epstein episode. Are we still talking about Epstein? We got a lot of guys in Texas underwater. I mean, let's be honest. You can't trust anybody who talks for a living. It's a good thing I don't do this for a living and it's just for fun, right? You can trust me still. I'm telling you, you could trust me. Bring me all the trust. These are the types of things that are laughable to me. You got to understand, as a U.S. citizen, as a citizen of the world, let's just say, because this show is worldwide. Bookmarks with Bump is listened to in many different countries by many different people. I fall across a few different age ranges and 2 different genders. I appreciate everybody who listens, but remind yourself to keep your head on a swivel. Do your own research, okay? Just like this Matthew Wallace fella here. He won't stop investigating until the truth is found. That's what we have to do. If you don't believe in what you're being told, if you get a weird feeling when somebody's saying something to you, believe in the feeling and follow the instinct. Follow your instincts to wherever they may go. Today, my instincts told me to follow the doctor's orders, and I will be heading off to physical therapy for my first session after learning of my partially torn Achilles sprain. That's what they call a sprain, okay? It's not ruptured. It will be intact. I don't need surgery. 6 weeks of physical therapy, and we'll see what I'm like at the end of the 6 weeks. That's what I'm looking at moving forward. That's what life will be for me right now, is just more of the grind. Physical therapy for me going into this, like, okay, I'm looking at it like I got a nice little break from running. I'm going to be able to revive and rejuvenate the body because it is stressful to go through these long runs. So that'll be nice to take that stress off my body, kind of get into a little bit of a new routine here, give myself more free time in the evenings, because when I'm training for a race, I'm not taking a break from lifting weights. I'm going from work to run, run to eat, eat to gym, gym to eat again, then bed. And it's a packed day. So I'm kind of embracing the free time that I have here. I'm embracing the routine that I have here, and embracing the climb back, listening to my body and trusting every step along the way. It's hard to trust in this world. It really is, when we have things like this going on, when you have the media downplaying everything that's happening. I mean, we didn't touch on the Charlie Kirk thing, but one thing that I will talk about is how there's been no autopsy, how there's been no ballistics report, and how Kash Patel is cross-eyed, telling us that he's looking into everything. The only thing he's looking into is the bridge of his nose. These clowns that we have on display are all just there for show. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you're in for a rude awakening. And listen, don't be surprised when it all comes crashing down. This is exactly what it is. But look at what I'm doing here. I'm not panicking, because my life is nice in my little bubble. And it will be nice until somebody tries to pop it. That's all we could do. Live in our bubbles. Push ourselves to our limits. Stay prepared. Stay frosty and keep your head on a swivel. DTA, baby. Don't trust anybody except for what your body tells you to trust. That gut feeling, it's real. It means something, especially if it's the butterflies. That's all for me this week. Yeah, I just wanted to dive in, poke and prod a little bit at our leaders and what they're doing and how they're not fooling anybody. Like, we're not as dumb as you want us to be. Sorry. You'll get over it. What I won't get over is this week of football. Thank you for hopping in and listening on another Sunday morning. Bookmarks with Bump is always up at 4 a.m., so it's the first thing you could listen to every Sunday. And as always, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter, at Bump of TTS, on TikTok, bookmarkswbump. Email me, gmail.com, or you can email me at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com if you have any threads you'd like to suggest that I speak upon, or if you just have some questions about how to get fit in the gym. I'm always trying to flex my personal training muscle, and as always, it's all love. God bless. I always do that.
I'm in that rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm in that rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.